This is going to be a tough one for me to accept. The Acura TLX has just been discontinued, and I knew it was coming. The writing was on the wall. I already made a video on that this incredibly looking and decently performing mid-size sedan was going to meet its end soon. And this was my first press event ever driving the Acura TLX Type S. So this would have been like May of 2021. And Acura was the first brand to invite me to a press event. And so this vehicle will always have a very special near and dear place in my heart. The TLX is getting discontinued at a time when sedans continue to fall out of favor for SUVs. And it's also being discontinued at a very interesting time with electrification. And that has a role of why it's going away. And I stumbled upon this during my move, or at least my kids did. As far as I know, Automotive News was the first to communicate this. All right, this came in early July 23rd. And this also comes in one day after I just updated you guys on the 2026 refresh of the Integra. The Integra is now the only sedan or coupe in the Acura lineup. And we will be getting a coupe crossover and the RSX nameplate revival and a coupe crossover SUV that's electric. That's just its own thing altogether, all right? The TLX here on its second generation, but it's more than that because it is the successor of the TL and TSX models. The TL makes, well, this is where it all started for this sedan for me. This vehicle, I mean, I loved this. And then I knew people in high school that had the TL Type S. But the original TL was all the way back in 1996. Second generation from 99 to 01. And then they dropped this bombshell, the 04 to 06 TL, which is one of the most classic Acura designs, I think, of all time. From that 3.5 liter V6, you had 260 horsepower. This is one of the most iconic images I have of this vehicle. The subtle spoiler, the simple but aggressive taillights, and the quad tip exhaust. And then it started losing its way, and Acura lost its way for a while as well with the Beak generation. The 4th generation TL was the last TL, and then it was replaced by the TSX, which it got better, right? The TSX was an improvement for sure. I think most of us can agree that we would love to have a sport wagon back in whatever form, whatever nameplate they want to call it. It's too bad that the TLX that we currently have does not have a sport wagon, but I know that the sport wagon didn't sell that great. So after 2 generations of the TSX, we were finally introduced to the final form of Acura's midsize sedan. All right. The RLX, the Legend had already been killed off. That one might be tougher to swallow because that vehicle was so iconic for Acura and Honda throughout the decades, the old Legend and / RLX. But here was the last go. Let's give it a new name. Everything had an LX or not, it ended in X, RSX, MDX, RDX, everything had an X at the end because that's what Acura decided was cool. All right. The TLX was the last midsize sedan. First generation, pretty snoozy. I mean, this design just looks like maybe a gussied up Camry. It never looked good. But when it got a facelift in 2018, it took a major step up when we saw the Diamond Pentagon grille and the full loss of the beakiness of the plagued Acura design for a long time. Then the second gen came out, and it's still one of the best looking midsize sedans on the market. And shortly after the base came out, they're like, hey, remember that old TL Type S? Well, how about we give you a TLX Type S with an all-new 3-liter turbocharged engine with 355 horsepower, a gussied up 10-speed auto, super handling all-wheel drive. And the problem with the TLX in this generation, I would say, one, the market is not favorable to sedans overall. Look at the Accord sales right now. And 2, the packaging is so compromised on this. Acura took a a design first sort of approach. They made the hood long. They swept back the A-pillar. They tried to make it look rear-wheel drive, but it's a front-wheel drive platform. And what do front-wheel drive platforms do well? Well, typically they do packaging well. You have lots of space on the inside, but not with this TLX. It's more stuffy on the inside. Well, it feels like it, and I'm sure there are numbers to support it as well. Feels stuffier than an Integra. So the Integra / ILX has grown over the years, and the TLX, I don't know, it may have shrunk with this second generation. And now with the refreshed Integra coming out or being announced the day before the end of the TLX, and I haven't even read this article, and I'll see if I'll find any nuggets in here after I stop sharing my thoughts. They didn't do anything with the Integra. They gave it like a paint matched grille, different touchscreen. Those are the things that, and different paint colors, like, and also a small paint, like a small body kit for the Integra. So it's just like very minor refresh. They didn't do anything with the powertrains, and that's what Acura absolutely needs now. I was dogging yesterday on the Integra for having a CVT, for not having the 2-liter turbo that this car has. Now this car is gone. You can't get this 2-liter turbo unless you get the RDX, but not everyone wants a midsize or somewhat compact of a crossover that the RDX is. All right. So it would have been great to have the 2-liter with the 278 horsepower or whatever this has. And someone said, make a GSR Integra with the 2-liter and the 6-speed manual. That would be insane. But instead, not only does the TLX go away, so does the 2-liter turbo, unless you get the full blown, $50,000+ Integra Type S. This one's hard because now Acura has no sedans technically because the Integra is a liftback. That's not so much the issue, right? The Integra doesn't have good enough powertrains. That's why this vehicle stuck around. Acura / Honda didn't have a sedan with the 2-liter turbo in it because they canceled it in the Accord, the 2-liter with the 10-speed auto. They killed that off with the newest generation of Accord, and they just went 1.5 turbo CVT in the Accord, and then they went hybrid. Okay, the hybrid's fine, but not having the turbo in the Accord 2-liter is not a good thing now that the TLX is gone. I thought that's why the TLX existed, because they took the turbo 2-liter out of the Accord. So it's like, well, if you want it, go get it in the Acura brand. But the problem is that maybe the TLX is too expensive or too compromised space-wise or not good enough fuel economy. Acura never gave this a hybrid. There's so many things that came to the demise of the TLX. And one of them is also the reworking of the Marysville auto plant. The Marysville auto plant that I toured this past February is getting reworked to build EVs. And maybe Acura's like, hey, we got an Acura midsize sedan coming. Look, Honda with the 0 Series Saloon, they have a flagship sort of EV sedan coming. I'm sure Acura has one on the way, but it's like, well, the market isn't hot for EVs right now. Maybe 3-4 years ago, but now the EV tax credit's getting killed off and people are really into hybrids or gas cars. Well, now you have less gas sedans, which I understand that there's not a demand for sedans like they used to be. So it's just an Acura, like I said, they went style first instead of what Honda and Acura typically does well, which is practicality. TLX was down 55% in 2024 with sales of just under 7,500 units. Assuming Honda doesn't give up the Accord, which I don't think they will, right? It's a historic nameplate for them. They're not just going to discontinue because the Accord sales are going down. Not as bad as the TLX, but Accord sales are not good. It's also being affected by this Marysville auto plant reworking for EVs with having a flex line there. So with the TLX gone, why not bring in the 2-liter turbo once again with the 10-speed auto and maybe give that freaking super handling all-wheel drive, or call IVTM4 on the Honda end. Give that to the Accord. Make that the Accord Type R or the Accord SI. Do something, Honda. Where is your racing and sporty pedigree right now? If you're going to kill it off in the TLX and you don't do anything to the Integra, instead of just saying, hey, we gave you Type S on the Integra. And the thing is, like, it's also sad because the TLX brought back Type S. It also is the first to take away Type S. Think about that. TLX brought back Type S after years of it being absent from the brand, and then now the whole car is gone, including the Type S variant. So will Acura's focus on EVs and the new ADX, is that going to move the needle for the brand? And my answer is I don't think so. Acura does want to become an all EV automaker at some point, and the TLX, I guess, is a casualty of that shift. Acura's never come out with a timeline to say, hey, we'll be 100% electric by this time. But Honda said by 2040, they will be fully electric. Here we are in 2025. Is it possible? Anything's possible, but you just can't get there from going from the TLX we have now to giving us an EV. Look at the backlash Afeela is getting with the price of that sedan. This is using the exact same technology that Acura EVs will be. Well, I should say EV technology, not sensor or autonomous driving or pedestrian detection technology, whatever, right? It's still going to be built at the Marysville auto plant alongside of Acura's and Honda's this vehicle. And don't these costs, I mean, they don't even have the price up anymore, I don't think, because it was just getting roasted for starting around $100,000. If Acura decides to do that, go $100,000 for a flagship EV sedan, that would bury them, or at least bury that model. Please don't call it the Legend. That would be heartbreaking for Acura to revive the Legend nameplate in an EV sedan. I don't think EV technology is ready yet for a Legend nameplate to be dusted off. I think Acura would have to, and Honda have to come out with solid state batteries in order for the Legend to actually live up to its legendary name. All right, and doing it in a timely fashion. But I don't know what to tell you guys. The TLX, this is sad for me, like I said, because it is my first ever press event car. It was a sign of hope for Acura to revive precision crafted performance with Type S. And a year after they refreshed it with I think a new screen. I think it still has the touchpad, if I remember correctly. They gave it a new screen. They gave it the frameless Diamond Pentagon grille about a year ago. And here we are. It's not getting a new lease on life for the 2026 model year. It's sad, but I'll always, always, always hold this car special to my heart because it was the first car to introduce me to this career, essentially. It's the first car to introduce me to one of my favorite racetracks in Laguna Seca. And it also was the last car I've driven on that incredible race course. So I just have such fond memories with the TLX. You know, performance enthusiasts wanted it to be lighter, wanted it to have more space, wanted a lift back out of it. You know, you kind of have the lift back and the more space in the Integra. So you got those two of the three things covered. And you got the Integra is also lighter, but it doesn't have Honda's all-wheel drive technology. What's next? What's next for Acura sedans is probably an EV. And I don't think very many of you would be excited for it unless Acura destroys it with styling. But look, they crushed it with the styling on this car and it didn't help them. All right. So styling can only go so far. All right. They need to be able to nail it. And that's the thing. It didn't nail the performance. And if you're going to make a performance vehicle, you can't just say, well, it has better features than the competition for about the same or less money. No, it's got to nail the performance. First and foremost, you got to nail the performance. And the 355 horsepower, it's great on paper, but again, it's just kind of held back by the heavy vehicle that it is. I'm sure you guys have plenty of other opinions and thoughts on the demise of the TLX. It's sad. I hardly see any of them on the road. And when I do, I'm like, damn, that's a hot car, especially when you see a Type S. I'll pour one out for my homie. Rest in peace, TLX, and hopefully Acura has another sedan or is able to do something to the Integra to kind of fill that performance gap, but I doubt it. All we have is Integra Type S from sedan/liftback for real performance, and you have no option now for all-wheel drive sedan, and you have no option for a good automatic sedan within Acura's lineup. You're just stuck with CVTs. of the 1.5 turbo, which is fine when it's with the manual. And then, yeah, rest in peace. I got to cut myself off. I could talk to myself about this one for a while, as you guys can tell. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.